Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Perkenalkan saya Roni dari Unimatrix Indonesia. Saat ini saya domisili di Berlin. Pada kesempatan siang dan petang hari ini di Indonesia, saya akan membuka sesi webinar kali ini yang berjudul Professional Meeting ya, yang dilaksanakan oleh Unimatrix Internasional. Dalam hal ini, kegiatan ini adalah kegiatan kedua setelah PhD by Publication yang dilaksanakan 2 minggu lalu berserta Pemprov Jawa Barat. Supaya tidak menyita waktu, setelah saya buka pada kesempatan hari ini, mungkin langsung kita ice breaking dengan pertunjukan harpa dari Mbak Fahita Advani di Jakarta. 2 lagu, yaitu satu lagu dulu ya, satu lagu, kemudian dilanjutkan oleh sambutan singkat dari CEO Unimatrix Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Joni Setiawan. Terima kasih. Silakan Mbak Fahita performannya. Selanjutnya sambutan singkat dari CEO Unimatrix Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Joni Setiawan, dipersilakan.
Ya, selamat siang, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Selamat sore waktu Indonesia atau bahkan selamat pagi bagi peserta yang di Amerika. Bisa mendengar saya?
Bisa.
Oke, ya, siap. Baiklah.
Jelas.
Saya ucapkan selamat datang kepada kita semua, salam sejahtera. So welcome to our second talk, second series about the expert dialogues and sharing series, which is today at the 6th of August 2020. This is a very great event, and I think I would like to appreciate Miss Desi Rutten as our managing partner of Unimatrix for the Kingdom of Netherlands and UK. So basically, I'm very honored to hear this opportunity that because today we will have a lot of 3 very important persons as speakers, namely Mr. Stephen Marcelino, Ms. Fahita Advani, and Mr. Haikal Bekti Anggoro, who will share with us about the possibility and information about the study in UK. So, but first I would like to introduce our speaker today. This is Mrs. Desi Rutten. She is quite well known in many of you. So she had her master in innovation and creativity and entrepreneurship and PhD in Economic Geography, International Business Strategy and Regional Policy Making from Newcastle University in UK. I think it is very great to have a lot of information and knowledge from her. And by the way, she is also very excellent in the field of the International Female Research Fellow, and she has additional PhD which called FERSA. This is the Fellow of Regional Studies Associations, which is she is from 2011 until now. And I know her very well. She is also a former BNI, Bank BNI economist for business strategy and smart remittance Europe. and she had a lot of great works in the last 7 years by supervising many customers of BNI, including myself, and also in many BNI customers in the Schengen area, including in Germany. So basically, we thank for her support and helps, but also she is very, very excellent in other fields, like in the business, academic and business professional, also in the business management and higher education. And recently, even she never stopped learning. So in the 2019, she also graduated from the London Business School for Executive Development program in digital marketing. So basically, so it's an honor for us in Unimatrix, which is basically based in Berlin, which is I founded 4 years ago as academic consultant. So we are not agent, but we are a consultant who is helping students who want to do science and the academic works. And we want to expand a little bit, not only from to Germany into Indonesia. So we built a bridge between. In the beginning, we make a bridge between Indonesia and Germany, but now we want to extend our service to UK and the Netherlands. So it is an honor for us to welcome Ms. Desi Rutten in our group. So I think she will guide us to, as a teacher, to perform and to introduce the expert of the study in UK. So in this opportunity, I would like to thank again for the coming from Ms. Desi Rutten, and also for the speakers, and also all participants will join this event. And now I give the floor to Ms. Rutten. Thank you very much.
Let me check whether I'm mute or not. Right, okay, thank you very much for the opening, and also the harpas from Fahita. Very pleased to have all our speakers. We have fantastic 3 lineup speakers. Mr. Stephen Marcelino, who is now busy with Accenture based in London, and also he's a founder of JIPA or YIPA. And we have the second speaker, Ms. Fahita Advani, who is a journalist at Indonesia Expat, also a lecturer at London School of Public Relations and professional harpist, of course. And last but not least, we've got Mr. Haikal Bekti Anggoro, who is, wow, this is a very profound title, Senior Vice President Operations and Seller Engagements at Lazada Indonesia. Welcome to the 3 of you, and thank you very much for your time. I know you've been very busy, but thank you very much for agreeing with Unimatrix to share your study and career journey within today. As it has been mentioned by Bapak Johnny, our Series 2 Expert Dialogue and Sharing Series with Unimatrix, our theme for today is Study and Career Journey. So therefore, we would like to give that's a comprehensive step-by-step before you choose before you continue your study in the UK, starting from undergrad, postgrad, or postgrad, we can talk about the master or doing PhD. And today I would like to start from the journey from senior high school to undergrad. And also Fahita, you just finished, you did also master in the UK. Right, without further ado, I would like to start from Mr. Stephen Marcelino, who is based in London. And it's very honored to have you, Stephen. Just one more thing, I would like to say hi to all the audiences. Based on my registration, we have audiences from, of course, Jakarta, Kalimantan, Padang, Medan, Jambi, Semarang, Tangerang, Cimahi, Sleman, Sumbawa, Bogor, Brebes, Klaten, and Surabaya. And also, as you know, that this series is broadcast from at least 4 or 5 countries. We've got Germany, we've got the Netherlands, the UK, Indonesia, and there's one audience who is based in the USA. So it's very global and transnational Zoom series, if you like. Right, Pak Stephen, our Bung Stephen, very pleased to see you again. Pak Stephen, I would like to ask about your journey, your study journey. before you, let's say, talk about your experience in the UK. Could you please tell us what sort of preparation that you did before you end up in Leeds University? You are alumni of Leeds University. Floor is yours, Stephen.
Sure, thank you. Thanks to Unimatrix, Pak Joni, Budiasi for the invitation, and it's also a pleasure to join this group to share a little bit about some of the study and career journey. As Budiasi mentioned, I'm ASEAN Capital Market Lead, Director Pasar Modal untuk Accenture. I also co-founded and been chairing a Global Indonesia Professional Association for Indonesian professionals and executives working across G20 and ASEAN after I co-founded the UK professional hubs called BIPA UK. So it's an interesting journey, right? Because I think what I'm going to do in terms of sharing my personal journey, and I think what I like to do is also to compare with what's happening today and with today's situation, how perhaps some of you that have perhaps kids, sons and daughters, and how you may want to prepare your sons and daughters into pursuing higher education in the UK, perhaps, because I think all of the panel speakers here are UK based, has attained UK higher education. So I started off with someone that are very open. I know that I want to go to pursue higher education abroad. At the time, I got unconditional offer from a couple university in Australia, a couple university in the UK, as well as one in the US. And I decided, my parent and I, we decided to go for the UK because the more we look at it, the more we thought it is very cost effective when it comes to only 3 years of undergraduate degree. Means that you don't need to spend 4 years education in the US, or in fact in Indonesia you have to pursue for 4 years. So I think that's the duration of undergraduate is very important, because you could do a lot with in 1 year. So a 25% savings on the duration of the higher education plus saving of the living cost is super attractive. And just looking back and just fast tracking what happened was, I started my higher education in the UK at the peak of the sovereign debt crisis in Europe. So Euro and British pound sterling, the two currencies in UK and Europe, are probably at their lowest in a few decades, and that means every rupiah we have value more in pound sterling, which means it's even more cost effective compared to Australia, where I believe it was one of the highest FX rates. So I think what I want to land is the cost effectiveness. But what I found after deciding from Petra to Christian Senior High School, so I graduated from Petra Manyar, and then really weighing on which university I should go, and because that cost effectiveness reason, I went to the UK route. Little did I know, once I was there, I realized the power of the Russell Group University and being part of the top UK higher educations leading in science and academic. It's truly superb. I think, I'm sure Fahita and Haikal can share a little bit about their study experience at the Russell Group universities that are equivalent to the Ivy League in the US. It's truly quite remarkable. And what I also found, the distinctive period between UK higher education, UK universities, and say Australia or Singapore, the students are exposed with such a high diversity in terms of our fellow students at the time, so that I interact more with the Brits, with the Europeans, with other international students that are truly diverse. So I suppose when I was a university student, we really forced to adapt and to interact and compete in a truly diverse setting. And I think that is one of the transferable skills that have allowed me to start developing some of the skills and expertise that I, even until today, I use in my career. So after I graduated from University of Leeds, I moved down to London. I worked at UBS Investment Bank in London office. And then before I moved to Accenture Strategy, where I ran our ASEAN capital market based out of London, but covering Southeast Asia. So that's a little bit about my personal journey. Now, reflecting what's happening today in this pandemic world, I think parents and students alike need to perhaps be a little bit more strategic. And I think this is something I would have done as well around their study experience and linking with a future career aspiration. In Surabaya and my batch, the parents, the kids, they don't really think about career. They just want to think about, okay, which subject I want to study, which university I want to go for, and that's it. There is no really linkages with future career aspiration. My suggestion is that to really think and reflect on how COVID-19 and the pandemic really impacted the world. What I truly believe in, future of workforce has arrived. It's no longer in the future, it has arrived today. And I think we need to do something about it. There are more than 50% of jobs that may no longer exist in a few years' time, right? I mean, when we keep talking about the future, it sounds like so far away, but it actually has arrived. More people work at home, and then the sense of collaboration is truly amazing. So what I'm keen to touch on is really how the parent can empower the kids, the sons and the daughters, to really think about what sort of future career aspiration and try to work backwards, right? Based on that type of career aspiration that are super relevant in a post-digital world, what sort of things the students should really be learning at. Because again, what I'm hoping that everyone here can get out, I think university education is super important, but how we empower the kids so that they can make the right decision throughout those universities, and in the end, their future is in their own hands. They will be competing in a different landscape with a different sets of demographics, I suppose. As we enter in a much more tough. Now, what they will also see, I'm just thinking, and want to challenge everyone here that we shouldn't really be thinking about what's happening in the next few months and the point of offer, but I'm also keen about investing our efforts and time to really thinking about that 3 or 4 years journey. At the end of the higher education, you graduate, they'll be entering a rather tough job market. Yes, they may be able to start a job, but a very tough job market. What we saw in the UK and Europe, for example, the global financial crisis that occurred 2008 created a prolonged impact. What we've seen in Europe and the UK, there has been a decade of stagnation, whereas we saw low growth, low inflation, bit of trickle here, growth and there, right? But imagine if the world is seeing a low growth or stagnation across the US. They just contracted by about 30% of the GDP growth in Europe and perhaps somewhat in Asia. Hopefully Asia recover fast. What's that job market going to look like? How can we prepare the students that will be coming into the higher education to prepare themselves, because the future workforce has to arrive? Probably that's a remarks from me, Budesi, and sharing a little bit more my own journey and how I see today's challenges.
Okay, I've got 2 questions for you, Stephen, before we move on to Bung Haikal. Right,
Sure.
Toward the end of your undergrad in the UK, specifically at Leeds University, were you thinking to go back to Indonesia, or you want to, right, we have a post-study after this, the UK things. So were you at the crossroad, whether should I go back to Indonesia or should I would try to my luck, to do my things here? And then you mentioned that you went down to London to try your luck. So can you tell about that? And perhaps the IELTS preparations. This is sort of the, we call it the hurdle of most of Indonesian students who wants to continue their study in the UK, because as you know, they cannot they cannot play around with the IELTS. It is one of the proficiency of their English, whether they are good or not, to be accepted at the UK university. So is there any advice for those who are still struggling to get the right scores of IELTS to be able to get the letter of acceptance from the UK universities?
Sure. No, I'm happy. Perhaps let me cover the last question first, then I come, because I think that's chronologically what I found. I think what I saw a lot in my batch, during Petra Manyar times, the focus of most parents and students are passing the IELTS score, and their focus is meeting the benchmark in order to get from conditional offer, where you get the offer but you have to meet certain criteria, into unconditional offer. And in the UK at the time, the benchmark was not particularly high. I think maybe 6, or something like that.
Now it's 6.5 to 7.
Now 6.5 to 7. Now, this is how I would argue.
Yeah.
I think meeting a benchmark no longer should be what they're aiming for. What they should be aiming for is aiming 1+ from what they're achieving. My point is that in order to truly harness the value of an overseas student experience, you need to really be outperforming the rest of, say, your peers. Not only you should be, say, better than the rest of international students, the Chinese, the Singaporean, the Malaysian, but how can you be at the same level of playing field with the British or the home students, right? And I think what I found, those who are borderline, mepet begitu ya, atau kayak bandnya all 7 begitu, tapi masih ada beberapa yang 6 atau 6,5. I don't know how this works these days, but I think at least university, you have the overall, and then in one of the items in listening and writing, you shouldn't get lower than whatever. But I don't know what's happening now, but I'm sure those who are borderline may likely to be struggling, right? And my point is that what I found, those who are seeking support and help and actually trying to complement their, don't get me wrong, Petra Manyar is one of the best high school in Surabaya. That is not enough to providing a good English level of proficiency. Just very honest, right? I mean, I'm not going to debate about the curriculum imposed on the high schools that we went in Indonesia, but I think in order for us to reach that number, whether you want to get help from the school or external support, I think that is super efficient. And what I found, those who are thriving are those who are adept in academic English, or English for academic purposes, EAP, I call it, and something that I just don't feel you gain throughout your 3 years or in high school, SMA 1, SMA 2, SMA 3. That's what I felt. So try to outperform at least +1 than what's required, and then you will have a competitive advantage. Then you could make the most of your study experience. That would be my personal view, and how my hurdles was I got maybe a couple, not just one, but a couple external support that I had in order to boost my IELTS, plus that English for academic purposes. And before that too, I have always been involved in English debating. So I think communication is very important, and I think doing something for fun, such as a debating club, is always things that are a plus, I would imagine. You are using your English outside of this type of courses, which is always nice. So that's a little bit about the debating side of things. Happy to share a little bit, because I went on a national competition held by UI for all of the high schoolers or all across Indonesia, and I was the best speaker too. So that is a bit of that in terms of how my, around things just quite align, I suppose. And in terms of life after university, so you're absolutely right. So my batch, and perhaps Haikal batch too, we were one of the very first year where we were not eligible for post-study work visa at the time. So the government took out or removed a post-study work visa that would have allowed us to work or to have 2-year stay after graduating from undergraduate or postgraduate. So I didn't have that. Means that people in my year, it's getting much more difficult to get a job in the UK. Now, my thought processes was going back to Indonesia, going back home is always the default, because Indonesia will not going to say no, me returning back. I have masih passport Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
And they're just not going to go back, and the default position is always there. That's why I try to focus in make a strategic bet in working in the UK where I could in relevant industry based on my expertise, and trying to really go all routes, apply so many different applications and network quite a lot with different people, attending different sessions. And it turns out that investment banking was my route, and then I joined financial services practice in Accenture Strategy. But again, it starts what the good news that I'm keen to share is that since Boris Johnson government, they have reintroduced the post-study work visa for incoming international students from this September 2020.
Yes.
So for the new students, after they graduate either S1 atau S2, they have 2 years eligibility to stay, and they can work in whichever UK company, UK-based companies without visa sponsorship.
Yeah.
Where in my case, UBS or Accenture had to sponsor me. They spend an extra whatever 5k plus health services, and they have to cover a lot more. It's more expensive to hire international student or non-EU citizens like myself. But I think overall, with PSW or without PSW, I will still advocate for Indonesians trying to generate global impacts outside of Indonesia. We have too many Indonesians in Indonesia right now with 250 million, 260 million already, and we don't have enough Indonesians working abroad. And I think contributing back to Indonesia can be in so many different forms. Asalkan jiwa masih merah putih, kita masih tetap bisa selalu berkontribusi.
Yeah.
Di Indonesia, ya kan? And I think that's what we could do, and that's what I think I always aspire to motivate other professionals.
Semangat kemerdekaan ya, Stephen ya. Fantastic. Let's move on to the next speaker. If I may call Mr. Haikal from Lancaster University. As Stephen mentioned, fortunately, and I don't know, it's by coincidence, I chose 3 young graduates from Russell Group University. For those who hasn't got any idea about Russell Group University, in the UK around 1990s, basically, all the vice chancellors from 24 university met together in Russell Hotel in London, and they decided to create, let's say, a research teaching leading universities. It's sort of like equivalent to Ivy League in the US. And Lancaster is one of them, Leeds is one of them, Manchester, Fahita is from Manchester, and myself is from Newcastle. So basically, we are Russell Group alumni. Haikal, wow, I don't know how to call you now, Pak Boss, because you have very distinctive and very high rank of position in Lazada. I should try to use your service then, and you should guarantee me 100% satisfaction, otherwise I will chase you wherever you are. Back to same question like Stephen. I mean, I don't know whether you live in Jakarta or Bogor at that time. I mean, how was the process from the junior high school, and then you decided to choose Lancaster, and you studied, if I'm not mistaken, is business and entrepreneurship, and then the rest is a story. And if you can emphasize, how could you improve your, let's say, IELTS score? Stephen already shared his recipe. You need to do extra miles, and Stephen also did debating, sort of like an activity to improve his English. What about you? And for those who hasn't got any idea about Haikal, a part of Lazada, he is, I mean, at the time, he was very passionate batik enthusiast. Wherever I go in the UK, I always see in the corner batik workshop. And that is Mr. Haikal with his famous Blankon, Pak Blankon. Jadi saya selalu panggil, Pak Blangkon, oh my goodness, you've been everywhere in the UK, and now you're with Lazada. Are you going to sell Blangkon? I'll leave the story to you then.
Well, thank you, Udesi. Good evening, everyone. First of all, very happy to be invited to talk into this in this event, right? It was a long time ago when I was in the UK. Met Udesi, met Stephen, met Fahita. I started probably back in 2008 when I was looking, or probably 2009 when I was looking. Okay, I was in SMA Negeri 1 Bogor, so SMA Negeri, not international school. And happened to me that a good friend of mine was in acceleration class. Hence, I was accompanying my friend to go to the education agency, right? And then I was exploring. Okay, is there any opportunity for me? And happened to because I went to sekolah negeri, I had to attend foundation degree first before entering the undergraduate. So I applied to 2 places. One is Lancaster University International Studies Center, which is understudy group, and then I also applied to INTO Manchester.
Yes.
For University of Manchester, right? I got accepted by both. However, Lancaster offered me bursary, so I decided to take Lancaster. And ranking-wise was good as well. You know, both are very competitive. Lancaster is super. Very well known in the UK, not really internationally though. While Manchester, University of Manchester, UOM, is very famous. In the UK and also externally, have a very good business school as well. But I decided to go to Lancaster. And then I applied for my IELTS test as well. As you might know, right? If you go to SMA Negeri, the amount of hours that you spend to learn English in the classroom was only probably 2 hours in a week. I was okay performer, wasn't the excellent performer in terms of English at school. So I took a bit of IELTS preparation course, a bit of course that just to maintain my English, and I managed to nail 6.5, which is the minimum requirement. And then I didn't attempt to take the second one to make it higher because for me it was enough. So it was a straightforward story. And then I arrived in the UK to do the foundation degree first at Lancaster University International Studies Center. For 1 year, and then after that, 2011, then I started officially my degree at Lancaster for 3 years. And I think it was unique because Lancaster is such a small city, not really famous among Indonesians, maybe more well known for master students or PhD compared to the undergrad. All of my seniors who attended Lancaster University, one graduated from British International School, so didn't have to go to the same process as me, like to go to foundation degree. I had another Indonesians who attended Lancaster, but lived in the UK already. So it was a new environment for me. Same like what Stephen mentioned earlier, right? I was put in a condition where I had to interact with a lot of people from England or Britain in general, and then also with people from around the world. I think it helped me to have an open mindset to excel my English, to improve my English. Because again, I came from SMA Negeri and English was never my first language. I was more fluent in Bahasa Sunda and Bahasa Jawa compared to English, definitely. And then 2012, 13, 14, 2014, I graduated. I was interning for I think 2 months in London with BKPM, Badan Koordinasi Penanam Modal there, but I had to go back to Indonesia because I think as Stephen mentioned as well, my generation was the first generation without the post-study work visa, right?
Yes.
Hence my visa expired. I flew back 1 day before the expiry date. I went back to Indonesia, and I was very lucky that a good friend of mine from SMA basically offered me like, hey Haikal, do you want to be a contract employee at Boston Consulting Group? So I was working for BCG as a project specialist for several months as a contract employee, and then did the interview phase and joined to become an associate at the BCG and worked there until 2016. I think for me, returning to Indonesia was one of my options, although was not my first priority. My first priority was to stay in the UK, work in the UK, but didn't materialize. So I returned in Indonesia and happened to work with one of the best consulting company, right, BCG. And I was working very hard at BCG, and then I ignored my email. I was actually invited for interview for McKinsey in London, but I completely missed the deadline and everything. But yeah, I think just destiny to be back in Indonesia. And then moved to Lazada in 2016, and I think the best learning from the UK was one. I think I chose the right degree at the right business school. The right degree because it's about entrepreneurship. Quite, let's say, it's not a very deep degree. It's more a bit of know everything in a degree. You learn a lot of things, and applicable to my role at the moment, working with a lot of SMEs in Indonesia. And I think the second part, what gave me the edge of when I work in Indonesia is that I'm used to live, to communicate, to collaborate with people from around the world. Lazada was founded by a German company, right? Rocket Internet. So I work with a lot of Europeans, people coming from Europe, some from the US, some from Asia, non-Indonesia. So I fit really easily in Lazada because I think I had the experience of living abroad. So it's never about just academic, but also the experience itself.
Right. Okay. Right.
Okay. I'll pass it back to Bu Desi.
Yes, thank you very much. Such an inspiring journey, and it was a brave and wise move to go back to Indonesia. And there's a blessing in disguise. And voila, now you work for Lazada, and I heard that you also got the chance to keep in touch or speak with Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma.
I met Jack Ma, but not talking with him. He was on the stage. I was not at the stage, obviously. I met Daniel Zhang though when he came to Indonesia. He's the chairman now after Jack Ma stepped down, and also CEO of Alibaba Group.
Right.
He visited the Indonesia office back in, I think, 2018. We did some introduction to Indonesia. Learned a lot. I think the benefit of learning or of studying in the UK is like you are ready for any type of cultures, people with different background coming to you, and you can basically accept differences and talk to them in a much easier manner compared to if you stay in a homogeneous environment, for example, like not saying bad things, but if you just stayed in Indonesia, maybe I would not be as flexible as I am now.
Very wise word from you, Pak Bos Haikal. Let's move on to Ibu Harpis kita, Ibu Fahita. Could you please unmute yourself now? I can see still a mute sign. There you go. Right, so Fahita, she's graduate from Manchester University, and you're not just doing your undergrad, but also you finish your postgrad. A little bit about your background, and I know that you are from the IB school in Jakarta. If I'm not mistaken, it was a Gandhi Memoriam School, and maybe maybe it's easier for you to tap into the IELTS things compared to the other speakers. Fahita, please share your experience with us.
My background is pretty different compared to Stevens and Haikal's, I would say, because I came from an international school. Mm-hmm. And I went to Gandhi Memorial School, as Bu Desi mentioned before, and it was actually an English school, of course, but unfortunately they did not offer IB at that time. So my sister's generation had IB, whereas mine, unfortunately, we had A-levels. But fortunately, I did not have to go through what Haikal and Steven went through. So I did not have to do a foundation year. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I graduated high school at 17. So I had to actually wait for a year. So at that time, they actually offered me to do a foundation degree, which I declined. I did not want to do a foundation degree for 1 year because I had to spend so much money.
Yes.
So anyway, so I actually waited for a year and I applied for the University of Manchester. I applied for 3 universities actually. It was Manchester, Birmingham, and Nottingham. So and fortunately, I managed to secure places in all universities. But my biggest challenge at the time was I did not know what I was going to study.
Right.
That was the thing. So I was this kid who was like interested in gazillion stuff. I was interested in politics. I was interested in psychology. I was interested in pretty much anything, except for other people's lives.
Right.
So that's what Indonesians call kepo. Tapi I'm not a kepo person. I'm more kepo about knowledge, about politics, about current affairs. So the biggest problem for me was it was very hard for me to determine which subject to concentrate in. So I consulted with a few people. I had always wanted to be a psychologist. I had always wanted to be a psychologist or international relations. I was drawn to politics and international relations. But you know what? I finally chose something quite different, which was management, specializing still in international studies. So how did I end up choosing management with specialism in international studies? That was after a long discussion. So everyone who had known me since childhood pretty much told me, you know what? You make a really good psychologist because you read people really well. So I was determined. But my mother told me, you know what? You should do management. So it was actually a last minute decision because under management, you have psychology, you have a bit of international relations, you have accounting, you have pretty much everything. So it was, the scope was quite diverse, and the Manchester Business School actually offered international studies as a specialism. So I was really drawn into it. So of course, I ended up going to Manchester Business School under the University of Manchester. So yeah, that's a brief history.
Right, okay. And then you decided after you finish your undergrad, right, okay, now there are also some options whether I want to continue to my postgrad or should I look for experience and international job while I was in Manchester. Did you come up with this kind of thoughts, Fahita?
So I knew I would do a postgraduate degree when I did my undergraduate. So at that time, I wanted to do something different. As I mentioned before, I could not just stick to one field. I'm not that kind of person. I love learning about new things. I love to improve myself, to learn new skills. Of course, I'm a harpist. I haven't been performing in over a year, by the way. That was the first time. That's why I was kind of like, it was kind of awkward. But anyway, so I was interested in like so many things. So I tried education because I've always been interested in education, and my father is also a university lecturer. My grandmother was an English teacher, so I think it's in the blood. So I applied to it runs in the blood, it runs in the family. Now I'm a lecturer myself. And so I ended up applying to the Manchester Institute of Education, now under the University of Manchester. So unfortunately, they changed the name after I graduated. It's now the Manchester Institute of Education. So it emphasized on digital technologies, communication, and education. So I really enjoyed the course. It was really different, a really different experience from the undergraduate course. During my undergraduate degree, we used to have courses in like really huge theaters with hundreds of students, whereas in the master's course, we didn't have to attend lectures every day. It was only like for twice a week, I would say. We didn't have seminars, but reading materials were a lot more reading materials when I did my master's. But the class was quite small. We only had like 5 or 6 students, and that too, it was divided between 2 classes. So we had this we developed this really close bond with each other, and of course I made new friends. The best thing about attending university in the UK is, I would say, you get to meet people from different backgrounds. It opens you up, it offers you different perspectives about lives. Not everyone lives the way we do, of course, and we have to understand how other people live, and that serves you very well in life. I think in life, in workplace, in any setting, I would say. And I did not actually have culture shock when I first attended university in the UK, I was okay because everyone was just, a lot of people just accept you the way you are. They're not judgmental. Some of them are like individualists.
Yeah.
So I'm introverted, by the way. So no judgments, nothing. And I was free to do whatever it is I like as long as we know our boundaries. But time management is the biggest challenge, I would say. Because if you're used to the conventional education system in Indonesia or in, I don't know about other countries, but I did learn about pedagogy during my postgraduate year. And we discussed about spoon-fed education. So the students were actually forced to swallow information, and there was a lot of mugging up, memorizing, and spitting everything into the exam paper, which of course you will forget the next day. So this does not happen in the UK because you have to do a lot of research.
Yes.
A lot of research, and pretty much if you just rely on the slides provided by the lecturer, you can pass. But if you would like to obtain first class degree, of course first class marks, first or 2-1 second class upper division, that would be enough. I think you have to do a lot of research to get that. You cannot just rely on the slides.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's very valid point. I'm sure Stephen and Haikal also agree when I said that, you know, it is a very different learning system when you are used to the Indonesian or Asian system, and then you came to the UK. You need to be more independent. They just provide reading lists, and then the rest you have to do your own research. Go to either library or wherever you want to study. Don't you agree with me, guys, in this context?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think, and in terms of the way they do exam assessment, they're not the best, right? But the fact that usually one module, they have one coursework and then one big exam at the end, give a lot of time for students on how to fish themselves rather than being spoon-fed. And because a lot of my friends who are studying at Indonesian, even leading universities in PTN, they have so many exams almost every week. I mean, I suppose there are more to exams than in the university study experience, right? There are extracurricular activities, and in fact, most corporates these days and most companies, when they look into candidates, when they want to recruit, they would want to know beyond your academic degree. In the UK, there are first class, which is the top, and then 2-1, 2-2. Most would actually want a 2-1. So it's just like a checklist, whether you pass through or not. You should really try to get a 2-1, but if you get first, then fantastic. But beyond that, the most companies in the UK at least would want to see leadership qualities. What do they do at university besides studying? So studying is important, but there are so much more. Now, if you have exams every week, then how could you afford to do all of this leadership and extracurricular activities? Some people might want.
Yeah, sort of transferable and soft skills. So ability to transfer or to put your academic skills and knowledge in the real world practice, if you like. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Is there any Haikal? I'm just curious about your advice. I mean, most of our audiences, they are not just from big cities like Jakarta, Surabaya, but also they came from small other cities in Indonesia. Is there any advice to encourage, let's say, bukan orang dari kota-kota besar gitu ya, to study in the UK? Have you got any advice for them to motivate and to support them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like as someone is coming from Bogor, right? So I think what really opened my mind earlier was when I was much younger, was that, you know, application is only like 1 mail away, which I didn't notice back then. So it was very simple. It was I just I just photocopied my report, right? And then and that's it. And then filled a form, put into envelope, sent through DHL to Lancaster and to Manchester, and that's it. You know, I think the barrier is actually within our own mindset. I was lucky that I tried. So I think the key here is just to give it a try. There is nothing to lose. If you don't get accepted, I believe in takdir as well, right? But if you try many enough, maybe one or two will actually open a discussion with you. I think the point here is just in the past my years, I still had to send the physical documents. Maybe now, I don't know now, but you can send digitally and then just scan and that's it. So probably even easier. So I think just try. That's just my advice.
If you don't try, you don't get. You never know.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Now I will open a session for audience for just 2 questions because we have a limited time. But thanks to Stephen, I think he's still prolonging his time with me. He said to me, I need to be 1 hour straight. And I said, please, I mean, if you want to leave, feel free, Stephen. But if you want to join for the Q&A from our audience, I would be very much appreciated.
That's fine. I can stay for a couple questions.
Thank you. Yes, please. For your information, first we have Pak Profesor Agus Rubianto dari ITS. Kemudian, I just want to say hi to some of our audience. Kita ada Ibu Dr. Herlina dari UPN Jogja. Thank you for coming. Kemudian ada Pak Sofan, ada Pak Andiko, ada Putri Sari. Putri, next in 2 weeks' time is gonna be yours, okay? So get ready. Right. Is there any questions that we can accommodate? Pak Johnny, as the CEO of Unimatrix, you've been, observing this interview. Have you got any questions in your mind, please, for our fantastic lineup speakers today?
Okay, basically, I would like to point the typical questions that many audience or many students always ask, like what I got also in my WhatsApps. The study in UK is expensive, so compared to, for example, in Germany, but there are also the problem that people try to get the scholarships. I think this question is very relevant to Pak Ronnie, for example, that there must be students from government from the West Java, or maybe also from Professor Agus Rubianto. There are students from East Java would like to get scholarships or funding to study in UK. I think it's just a general questions, and I hope that people or you can help us to address this question. That's all from me.
Feel free to answer either Faita, Haikal, or Stephen. I mean, all of 3 of you, you've got funding from your parents, which is investment from their perspective.
And also, just by the way that this in Q&A, I think it's also okay to have this discussion in Bahasa Indonesia.
Ya, tidak apa-apa. Silakan. Mungkin dari Fahita dulu, saya persilahkan.
Okay, so your concern is that it's expensive. Yeah.
Mahal.
Mahal, yeah.
Regarding to expenses, I would say, okay, bahasa Indonesia ya.
Okay.
Ya, silakan.
Okay, so at the time, that was like 12 years ago. Saya mau masuk universitas. Ketika itu, memang saya selalu memutuskan saya mau ke Inggris dari dulu.
Yeah.
Tidak ada option lain. Kenapa? Karena di Inggris itu waktu itu, well, it favors us, as Stephen mentioned earlier, with the Eurozone crisis, GDP-nya sangat rendah. So it was like 15,000.
Yeah.
And it was actually at one point it was so low. It was actually 13,000 per pound.
Yeah.
13,000 rupiah per pound.
Yeah.
So that time I actually felt like, oh my God, this actually favors international students like us.
Yeah.
Kenapa? And it only takes 3 years to complete my degree. I got an offer from the University of Melbourne in Australia. You get an honors degree over there. They allow you to get an honors degree in 4 years' time. Of course, you spend a lot more in Australia than you do in the UK. 3 years with honors, I think it's worth it. And about the masters, you can finish your masters in a year, which is an investment. And investment doesn't always have to be education-wise. It's the relationships you make. It's the people you meet.
The networks,
It's the experience that shapes you, who you are, and you carry that forever. I had the opportunity to meet some really great people like Haikal and Steven, of course, who are my friends. I got a lot of opportunity to meet amazing people who are now working in like really good companies. Of course, they have really good careers and lifelong friendships that you've developed throughout the years. So I think you cannot just measure that in terms of expenses or money.
Betul sekali.
That's it for me.
Sangat wise sekali Mbak Fahita ini.
Ya.
Pak Blangkon, ini pesan dari Pak Blangkon gimana?
I think bahasa Indonesia. Jadi kalau dibilang mahal, ya jelas mahal. Kalau dia selalu dirupiahkan, everything kalau dirupiahkan jelas mahal. Apalagi kayak makan kali 4 pounds. I don't know sekarang ya, tapi dulu 4 pounds dan berarti 60.000. Kalau kita bilang ke teman kita yang kuliah di UGM, sekali makan 60.000 menjeritlah mereka, ya kan? Jadi ya jelas itu mahal. Tapi ketika waktu itu makanya saya milih untuk kuliah di Lancaster adalah karena mereka yang paling berani nawarin saya bursary 50% of my tuition. Jadi I got 50% off directly from a National Study Center. Dan kalau dirupiahkan back then, maaf nih, kadang-kadang kalau mau daftar ke PTN, lewat jalur yang bukan yang lewat SNMPTN dulu istilahnya, kan berarti masih kadang-kadang masih ada fluktuasi antara dapat uang pangkalnya berapa kan. Nah, so I didn't, saya nggak ngambil risk itu dan kayaknya 4 tahun, 1 tahun foundation 3 plus 3 tahun. Ditambah juga pengalamannya, bisa kuliah di luar negeri, waktu itu juga masih agak jarang. Jadi sama seperti yang Fahita bilang, kalau dirupiahkan ya emang jelas mahal, apalagi dibanding-bandingin kalau langsung di convert. Tapi kalau dirasa pengalamannya, kualitas pendidikannya, akses ke jurnal dan segala macamnya, worth every penny. Even for me, kayak itu kayaknya sangat-sangat affordable karena saya juga punya adik-adik yang ikut merantau juga kan, jadinya setelah saya ke negara yang berbeda dan saya ngerasa wah ternyata kuliah saya dulu itu very good for value gitu loh, dan sampai sekarang masih banyak yang kerasa manfaatnya. Dari dulu baik akademik maupun non akademik.
So, mungkin menambahkan saja Desi kalau boleh. Jadi mungkin memang kelihatannya generasi kita itu cukup blessed, cukup diberkati karena dulu masuknya 1 pound sterlingnya 13 ribuan, pada saat saya earning pounds itu sudah 22.000, 19.000. Jadi ini jadi waktunya BP. Maybe one thing that I wanna, perhaps another angle ya, mungkin kalau parents yang di sini atau orang-orang yang mau memutuskan menguliahkan anaknya dalam negeri atau luar negeri, itu ada break even point-nya juga yang bisa di-consider. Maksudnya ya mungkin bisa bunyinya M ya, kayak miliar begitu kalau menyekolahkan putra atau putri ke luar negeri. Tapi the question, kalau misalkan seperti teman-teman yang kerja sudah di professional hubs kita, rata-rata mereka bisa break even dalam 1,5 tahun. Jadi mereka bisa recoup all of those years of investment dalam 1,5 tahun saja. Dan plus dari sana mereka trajectory-nya sudah luar biasa ya, jujur saja saya bilang. And this is a model that many Indian students use. Jadi yang teman-teman orang India itu mereka ada istilahnya student loan di India, mereka berani ngambil loan, mereka kuliah di top UK University atau di top US University, mereka harus, they don't have option. Mereka harus bayar utang itu, tapi mereka bakal kerja di top corporates dan mereka akan bayar loan itu. And what happens is a poverty alleviation. One of the reason many corporates di Fortune 500 banyak sekali orang-orang India. Bahkan di Google, di Microsoft, sekarang grup CEO-nya mereka adalah orang India. Gitu kan. So it's just an example. Tapi kalau scholarship route juga sekarang makin banyak ya. Evening dari UK, dari LPDP juga katanya UK one of the number one top priority karena mereka bisa jalan-jalan juga atau Harry Potter fan begitu ya.
Ya.
So it's just just opens up, I think, nggak cuma hanya orang-orang yang memiliki self funding saja, tetapi juga scholarship funded juga.
Dan saya setuju apa yang dikatakan Stephen, misalnya high risk, high earnings itu juga merupakan ya investment juga. Kemudian yang dikatakan Pak Blangkon ya, bursary. Nah di UK itu tiap-tiap university Anda harus rajin-rajin melihat itu ada bursary-nya masing-masing, dan itu tidak bisa diglobalisasikan. Jadi step pertama yang Anda lakukan pasti pencarian minat dan bakat. Nah, dalam hal ini Fahita masih bingung tadi. Nah, kalau saya boleh bilang, saat ini itulah Unimatrix hadir. Jadi kalau Anda masih bingung, aduh, saya uang udah ada, Inggris udah agak IELTS-nya, tapi where should I have to go? Saya minatnya banyak gitu. Nah, kita memberikan service juga untuk mentoring. Jadi mentoring scheme kita mulai dari Anda menemukan minat sampai pemilihan universitas dan subjek. Nah dari situ kita bisa melihat, siapa tahu kalau Anda bayar tuition fee-nya full, Anda dapat diskon biasanya 10%, 15% atau yang kayak Pak Blanca 50% ya. Haikal.
Yep. Lucky enough to get 50%.
50 ya lumayan lah. Yang penting dapat diskon. By the way, diskon juga bahasa Belanda loh ya. We kunnen Nederlands spreken. Itu volgende week itu kita Hollands spreken. Nah, jadi saya ingin memberikan informasi mengapa kita mengadakan series dari Unimatrix ini. Kita mulai dari yang basic dulu, mulai dari SMA sampai undergrad, kemudian postgrad. Nah, Anda harus tahu di UK itu ada Russell Group University, kemudian juga ada mantan istilahnya dulu Polytechnic University. Nah, mereka mempunyai chance yang lebih bagus juga. IELTS-nya nggak tinggi-tinggi amat. Misalnya kayak Northumbria itu saya lihat IELTS-nya masih 6. Sedangkan yang lain kalau Russell Group at least 6,5 atau 7. Kemudian untuk IELTS preparation, saya melihat audiens kita yang daftar rata-rata masih belum mempunyai IELTS. Nah, Unimatrix akan memperkenalkan kita mempunyai kursus bahasa Inggris kurang lebih nanti insya Allah bulan September. Itu bahasa Inggrisnya ada 3 pilihan. IELTS preparation, kemudian academic English. Nah, si Stephen kan bilang academic English itu sulit-sulit gampang ya Stephen ya, nulis coursework gitu ya, kemudian presentasi lah, dirimu udah jago melalui debate gitu ya. Tapi academic English, particularly in writing, itu tidak sama dengan kita menulis surat cinta atau surat lamaran atau business English gitu ya. Nah, itu kita juga sediakan ada academic English dan juga ada general sama business English. Itu yang akan saya pandu dengan tim Unimatrix yang ada di Eropa. Nah, ini kita mulai mendekati, sebentar, saya melihat message ada satu pesan. Apa ada pertanyaan lagi, Pak Bos?
Boleh saya komentar aja.
Oke, Bapak Profesor, iya silahkan. Orang ITS nih, boleh kita, monggo.
Enggak, ini saya menarik dengan Mas Haikal tadi dengan Blangkon, saya pakai ini saya udah
langsung.
apa namanya itu Jawa Timurnya, tapi doslanya masih ada di sebelah sini ini.
Ya, Adidas.
Saya menarik ini tadi mulai dari Mas Stephen ini yang asli arek Surabaya, kemudian Mas Haikal ini walaupun Bogor tapi kayaknya bahasa Jawanya bagus gitu. Apalagi ini dari Unimatrix Mas Joni Setiawan nih, kalau di Berlin biasanya saya panggil dengan Mas Dokter sama Mbak Desi, nah yang luar biasa ini yang kita sering ketemu di diaspora. Kemudian Mbak Fahita tadi performanya luar biasa ini. Ini saya merasa bersyukur ini saya diundang oleh Mas Dokter ini, saya panggil Mas Joni Setiawan. Nah, saya seringkali juga ingin sharing saja bahwa sekarang ini Mas Menteri kan punya program ya Merdeka Belajar begitu ya, bahwa nantinya bahwa perguruan tinggi Indonesia itu diminta untuk bisa kerjasama dengan universitas di luar negeri ya. Kemudian di samping itu memang dengan Merdeka Belajar ini kampus-kampus di Indonesia itu supaya bisa bekerja sama dengan industri. Tentu saja kemampuan kerjasama ini kalau kita di luar negeri memang sudah biasa gitu ya. Tetapi di Indonesia ini kan ya kita tahu bahwa Indonesia adalah negara berkembang. Tapi saya selalu yakin sangat optimis dengan negara kita. Dan Saya menarik sekali tadi Mbak Desi, ternyata bahwa nanti ada semacam akademik English gitu ya, ada khusus ya untuk Unimatric. Kebetulan selain saya di guru besar di ITS ini, saya kan ketua komite sekolah di SMA Komplek, di SMA Negeri 2 Surabaya. Dan oleh sebab itu saya terima kasih sekali diundang oleh Mas Dokter ini untuk bergabung di Unimatric. Nanti info-info yang ada ini akan saya berikan. Tentu saja memang salah satu yang saya catat ini tadi yaitu dari Mas Steven, yaitu the power of kepepet gitu ya. Ketika kita ketika saya ke Jerman itu saya nggak bisa bahasa Jerman itu. Ketika saya masuk khusus bahasa di kelas itu ditanya wie heißen Sie gitu kan. Saya diem aja karena nggak bisa bahasa Jerman saya. What is your name? Iya, my name Agus Rudianto gitu kan.
Les lagi Pak Prof di Unimatrix.
Iya, artinya apa? Bahwa saya garis bawahi semuanya tadi dari Mas Steven, Mas Haikal, Mbak Fahita, Mbak Desi. Artinya apa? Yaitu kebonekan nih kalau saya bahasanya arek Surabaya itu ya, ketekatan untuk maju. Saya juga ingat itu bagaimana Mas Joni di di Freiburg itu kayak Cwaita Heimatnya di Freiburg itu ya. Desa kedua di sana. Demikian pula kami di sini yang semula. Artinya apa? Bahwa tekad, dan saya yakin kok orang Indonesia itu cerdas-cerdas itu. Dan sekarang kita lihat bahwa keadaan ekonomi dan dunia ya, semua kita lihat dengan COVID-19 ini tidak hanya di Indonesia. Ini saya melihat ini rekan-rekan kami yang di Jepang terutama, itu mereka punya universitas banyak semua, tetapi tidak punya mahasiswa master sama doktornya. Oleh sebab itu sekarang kalau kita kerjasama dengan Jepang, ini kebetulan di Jepang itu ya, kita bisa saling levelnya sama lah. Anda butuh mahasiswa S2, S3, kami punya gitu kan. Dan ini bagaimana kerjasama yang lebih lebih humanis lah. Ya demikian pula dengan di Jerman ya, kita sudah lama. Kalau Jerman ini kalau sudah kita itu bekerja sama sampai 15 tahun, 20 tahun. Tapi menarik ini, hari ini saya dapat pelajaran dari UK ini. Apalagi Mbak Desi ini alumni UK, kemudian Mas Haikal. Memang kalau bahasa Jawa itu jerbasuki powo beo. Ya, kalau kita itu mau invest sesuatu, memang kadang kita nggak dihitung secara kapital itu, semacam Mas Haikal itu ya, bahwa ada budaya, kemudian disiplin, seperti tadi itu Mbak Fahita, kemudian Mas Steven Mas Steven itu the power of kepepet, walaupun IELTS-nya itu 6,5 sekian, tapi kalau dengan bonek ya akhirnya lulus ya. Artinya bahwa ini kisah sukses kayak begini ini harus diceritakan ini ya, bahwa memang ke UK itu bayarnya pound sterling. Sama saja ketika hitung-hitungannya itu rawan setan itu, bayarnya rawan setan itu sekitar.
Agus, I think you're on mute. Pak Prof. Rudianto, I think you're on mute.
He's too excited too, Steven.
Mic-nya dibuka Pak Prof.
Udah?
Maaf ya. Jadi artinya bahwa ketika kita itu ke UK misalkan dengan pound sterling, dengan mahal, tetapi memang berikutnya tadi break even point-nya ketika 1 tahun, 2 tahun bekerja di sana ini sangat menarik. Dan ini memang teman-teman kita dari India ini lebih bonek lagi daripada kita. Mereka, saya juga sama, punya teman dari India yang ke Jerman itu ya bonek aja. Sudah nggak bisa bahasa Jerman, bahasa Inggrisnya juga nggak jelas gitu kan. Tetapi ya mau maju saja. Oleh sebab itu mungkin kisah sukses dari Mas Haikal, Mas Steven, kemudian Mbak Fahita ini, apalagi Mbak Desi ini. Saya itu kalau lihat Mbak Desi itu isinya semangat tuh, kepingin bahasa Inggris lagi gitu.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Prof atas remark-nya. Fantastik. Saya lupa menyebutkan kalau misalnya kita di Inggris, kita juga bisa mengambil part-time work ya, Fahita, Haikal, dan Steven. Anda bisa kerja casual, meskipun itu dibatasi seminggu berapa jam. Kalau waktu saya dulu 21 jam tapi bisa agak lama kalau waktu summer time. Itu siapa tahu salah satu cara untuk influence CV Anda gitu ya. Anda bisa kerja. Saya dulu kerjanya di Marks and Spencer sama Primark. Terus kerjanya Ambi jadi nanny juga. Kemudian pokoknya dari bawah, cuci piring juga di Chinatown gitu ya. Untuk apa? Supaya kita melebur, to blend ourselves with the local language gitu ya. Di Newcastle itu bahasanya Geordie bahasanya. Jadi pertama saya datang, waduh ini Inggrisnya bukan Inggris yang saya dengar dari BBC gitu. Kan so many English accent gitu. UK terdiri dari 4 regio gitu ya. Jadi Anda kemana-mana juga mendengar aksen Inggris yang macam-macam gitu. So the last word, ada pesan-pesan terakhir mungkin dari Pak Joni tentang Unimatrix Service yang bisa kita berikan. Sebelumnya saya merasa terharu ya karena ini Bung Steven terutama yang sangat super sibuk. Oh Bung Steven, ini sekalian aja promosi ya. Kalau waktu zaman saya dulu ya, awal-awal akhir tahun 1999 itu nggak ada, PPI-nya ada, tapi nggak ada yang namanya YIPA, kemudian Global Club untuk Indonesian Professional. Anda bisa cerita nggak sedikit sehingga ini bisa menambah semangat. Oh ternyata lulus dari UK ada payung yang bisa saya tap in gitu. Bisa cerita sedikit?
Sure, boleh. Dan ini mungkin juga something yang Haikal juga, Pak Hita juga sangat melihat ada gap istilahnya ya, ada gap di mana banyak dulu perkumpulan PPI cabang di Manchester, cabang di Leeds, cabang di Lancaster. Dulu Haikal juga ketuanya PPI Lancaster dan ketua PPI UK. Jadi istilahnya para pelajar di luar negeri itu berkomunitas, berorganisasi PPI itu sudah sangat lumrah. Tapi pada saat kita lulus, ya kan, tidak ada komunitas atau asosiasi yang istilahnya bisa kita bergabung, menampung begitu. Jadi tidak ada pada saat itu. Adanya organisasi-organisasi mungkin untuk diaspora yang bersifat istilahnya bersifat agamis. Jadi ada yang perkumpulan untuk teman-teman Muslim, ada yang teman-teman Kristen, ada yang perkumpulan Padang, ada perkumpulan Bonapasogit yang Batak, ada perkumpulan yang Kawanwa Manado. Kita orang Indonesia jauh-jauh ke Inggris, jauh-jauh di luar negeri. Kok yang ngumpulnya berdasarkan agama, berdasarkan suku, gitu ya. Jadi kayak memang istilahnya kita memang suka lah ya berkumpul dengan orang-orang yang kita bisa kangen, rindu-rinduan rumah begitu. Tetapi alangkah baiknya apabila ada suatu professional hub di mana itu cross religion, cross ethnicity, cross industry, kita betul-betul fokus in building the future business leaders of Indonesia. Karena memang harapan kita agar teman-teman anggota profesional yang bekerja di financial services, professional services, engineering infrastructure, itu kita bisa make global impact dimanapun kita. Jadi so far selama saya memimpin HIPA UK selama 5 tahun dan sekarang kita memang start a global movement yang namanya Global Indonesia Professional Association. Kita ada professional hub mulai dari West Coast San Francisco, di DC, di Boston, New York, London, kemudian di Jerman juga ada Pak Prof Rubianto kali dibuat. Di Jerman ada. Belanda masih progres itu kelihatan. Singapura, di Jepang juga ada. Jadi it's great that collectively mulai banyak orang-orang Indonesia yang bekerja di luar negeri bisa ada professional hub di mana kita bisa melink mereka semua. Mungkin itu saja. Would love to still connect, terutama dengan kita juga lagi gencar-gencarnya di approach dengan para adikbud di New York, Prof Poppy yang di Unpad ya kalau nggak salah ya, dan beberapa adikbud lain, agar betul-betul menjembatani bagaimana student setelah mereka lulus, biar ada teman-teman profesional yang membantu untuk membina for their career development path, mau kembali ke Indonesia atau mau kerja dulu di manapun itu. Karena memang again as a default option is always nicer to come back home. And eventually kebanyakan waktu kita survei member-member di UK, mereka memang ingin kembali ke Indonesia eventually. Mungkin setelah 3, 5, 8 tahun mereka bekerja di luar negeri, pulang rumah karena orang tua juga semakin tua dan lain sebagainya begitu. So I think it's great.
I think that's a very, very wise, let's say, closing statement from Stephen. Now we are talking about the meaning of being Indonesian diaspora. We can bring our financial, let's say, capital, our human capital, our cultural capital, and the most important thing is networks. That's the thing that you cannot get if you just, with all due respect, you just study in Indonesia, because now the word is flat, but at the same time it's spiky. So that's the thing that I would like to say, unless Bung Faikal, Bung Haikal, is there any closing statement from you?
I think last but not least, right? Thank you so much for inviting. Terima kasih sudah mengundang untuk hadir hari ini. Menurut saya sih ada dua hal yang mau saya key takeaway. Satu, bahwa modal nekat itu penting, karena kalau nggak pakai nekat di awal, nggak pernah itu saya bisa kesampaian, bisa nyangkut di UK dan ya sampai sekarang. Yang kedua adalah tadi setuju banget dan disebut Pak Prof bahwa mahasiswa di Indonesia tuh pinter-pinter. I think that's a very, very, very valid point, karena saya di Lazada juga nginterview banyak fresh grads, pinter-pinter sekali. Saya coba ikutan tes daftar UGM, ITB, UI, ITS, Unair, mungkin zaman dulu mungkin nggak bakal lolos ya kan. Saya modal nekat aja bisa keluar negeri. Jadi mereka tuh jelas pintar sekali, emang mungkin gaya pengajarnya beda, dan kalau mereka mau S2, it should be easy for them gitu loh. Karena di Indonesia tuh udah kalau bisa masuk PTN berarti udah oke banget, dan juga udah memiliki daya tempur yang menurut saya jauh lebih kuat daripada yang sekedar merantau kayak saya. Jadi I think my point is Indonesian students itu pintar-pintar semua, tinggal perlu dinekatin sedikit aja untuk coba ngelangkah ke luar negeri. Karena pengalamannya it's not just about the price, nggak cuma sekedar uangnya mahal, nggak sekedar akademiknya bagus, tapi pulang ke Indonesia one day bakal bawa more than just akademik sih, bakal banyak bawa pulang network, culture dan segala macam. I think that's it from my side, Bu.
Thank you very much. Fantastic closing statement from Pak Bos Haikal. And I just want to mention we're going to have another series in 2 weeks' time, and it's not on Thursday. Bear in mind, it's going to be on Friday, and the date is 21st of August. Still the same time, jam 7 PM waktu Indonesia Barat, jam 2 waktu European time, and jam 1 British time. And we've got fantastic lineup of 4 speakers. Ada Mbak Citra yang dari BP, ya, British Petroleum di UK. Ada Fadli Gunawan yang bekerja di Adidas Group Europe. Kemudian ada Mbak Putri yang saat ini juga hadir, ya, yang sekarang bekerja di Zurich, Indonesia. Dan ada Mbak Dirata yang bekerja di JD. Dan ini temanya adalah hybrid study in overseas. And we move forward from SMU to undergrad to now we are focusing on undergrad to postgrad. Jadi semuanya ini udah S1, S2, dan dia tidak hanya di UK atau Netherlands tapi juga other countries. That's why we call it as a hybrid study in overseas. And for those who have registered to join our Zoom series, you will get a virtual goodie bag from us, and that is also the information about Unimatrix, the information about our speakers, and also information about the next 2 weeks' time expert dialect series. And please stay tuned with us in 2 weeks' time. And also in the meantime, for those who cannot attend our Zoom series today, you're still able to access by clicking on our YouTube channel. And still in progress, because to be honest with you, this is a new mission that I got from CEO Unimatrix. You know, this is about everything happens during the COVID. So I finished my work as a banker, and I want to continue my passion in education, and that's why now I'm in charge for the UK and NL networks. And for all our speakers, I would like to say thank you very much. At the end of this week, hopefully within 3 up to 5 working days, you will get a token appreciation from us, and it's going to be in certificate from our CEO of Unimatrix in Germany. Pak Bos, I'll give it back to you before we close this session with a beautiful performance from Mbak Fahita, Love of My Life. Pak Bos, I give it to you.
Okay, thank you for this very nice event. Saya sangat berterima kasih atas kehadirannya. Terima kasih Ibu Desi, terima kasih para pembicara, Bang Stephen, Pak Haikal, dan Mbak Fahita, dan juga kepada para peserta, Pak Profesor Agus Rubianto, dan semua yang hadir di sini. Saya harap acara ini sangat bermanfaat. I hope that you can take the knowledge and advantage from this our series. And it's a very pleasure for us to welcome you soon. And there was a kind of information from Bapak Misdianto that the 21st is Tahun Baru Hijriah. So we will inform you later about the actual dates, if it is expert that many people will come later or before, so we will discuss it. Oke, saya berterima kasih sekali lagi. Saya menyilakan memberikan kembali ke Bapak Operator Pak Roni untuk menutup atau mempersilakan Mbak Fahita untuk acara yang berikutnya.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Joni, kemudian Ibu Desi, dan para narasumber, juga Bapak Ibu yang sudah hadir malam hari ini waktu Indonesia dan siang hari ini waktu Berlin. Sebelum kita menutup acara ini, salah satu persembahan terakhir dari Mbak Fahita, lagunya Love of My Life dari Queen. Setelah itu mohon nanti Bapak Ibu bisa mengangkat jempolnya untuk dokumentasi kami. Jadi dengan seperti ini. Atau sekarang saja ya. Jadi
sekarang saja.
Saya akan screenshot untuk dokumentasi kami di Unimatrix. Terima kasih. 1, 2, 3. Oke, terima kasih. Silakan lanjutkan Mbak Fahita sekaligus.
Saya pamit dulu. Maaf. Thank you again.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Stephen.
Pak Joni, Prof. Rubianto, tim Haikal, Fahita. It's great to reunite again with you all. Bye-bye now.
Oke, thank you so much. Ya, terima kasih ya. Terima kasih. Silakan Mbak Fahita performannya, dan sekaligus saya menutup acara sore dan malam hari ini. Terima kasih. Terima kasih Mbak Fahita.
Thank you.
Sampai bertemu kembali teman-teman di pertemuan selanjutnya. Terima kasih. Selamat malam, selamat beristirahat. Cheers.
kasih.
Cheers.
Cus.
Terima kasih semuanya. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof. Terima kasih, Prof. Ruby.
Terima kasih semua Bapak Ibu.
Wah. Alhamdulillah selesai. Mbak Fahita luar biasa performanya.
Iya.
Lagu favorit saya itu.
Jadi pengen nyanyi.
Iya. Satu lagi harusnya Bohemian Rhapsody ya.
Kayak Angelina Jordan.
Siapa
yang,
itu?
American Got Talent itu.
Oke.
Ya.
Ya. So,
Oke, saya pamit dulu ya.
ya.
Pamit ya.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih ya.
Ya.
Terima kasih. Oke. Saya tutup ya.
Ya.
Saya tutup. Ya.